It was almost midnight when Ethan Crawford, one of the most powerful CEOs in New York City, decided to pretend he was asleep. The mansion was silent except for the faint ticking of a golden clock in the hallway. He lay still on his king-sized bed, eyes closed but fully awake, pretending to drift into dreams. He had made up his mind to test someone tonight. The quiet, shy maid who worked for him, a girl who never spoke unless spoken to, who always kept her eyes down and her heart hidden behind politeness. Ethan had grown curious about her, though he didn't want to admit it to himself. For weeks he'd noticed her tidying his office even after long hours, cleaning in silence, leaving food when he forgot to eat. And somehow something in her eyes, tired yet gentle, kept haunting him. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the hidden goodness of people, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us spread more heartfelt stories that remind the world how compassion still exists. The night was colder than usual. Outside, rain kissed the glass windows, and the city lights shimmered through the curtains. Ethan had been thinking all day about what his employees truly thought of him. He had built an empire out of hard work, but in doing so, he had forgotten what empathy felt like. People called him a perfectionist, but secretly he knew they feared him. Even his staff rarely looked him in the eye, except for her, Lila. She didn't meet his gaze either, but her silence didn't carry fear. It carried something else, sadness. He remembered once, a few weeks earlier, when he had scolded her for accidentally breaking a crystal glass. She hadn't defended herself or tried to explain. She had simply whispered, "I'm sorry, sir," with trembling hands and eyes that glistened not with fear but with guilt, as if she had disappointed someone she deeply respected. That moment stayed with him. He didn't understand why. So tonight, he want Ed to see who she truly was when no one was watching. Would she go through his things? Would she mutter under her breath about her strict, cold boss? Or would she simply do her job and leave? He wanted to know. Not because he doubted her, but because something deep in his chest was changing, something he didn't fully understand. Lila entered the room quietly, holding a soft cloth and a tray. She thought Ethan was asleep. She placed the tray on the side table, his dinner, untouched again. She sighed faintly, her voice barely above a whisper. "You work too much, Mr. Crawford," she murmured. Her tone was not complaining, but caring. Ethan, still pretending to sleep, felt a strange warmth stir in his chest. No one had spoken about his well-being in years, not since his mother's passing. Lila gently straightened the blanket around him, as if making sure he was warm. Her movements were soft, cautious, respectful. Then she looked at his tired face. "You look so lonely," she whispered, and Ethan's heart almost skipped a beat. No one had ever said that to him, not even the people closest to him. But she didn't stop there. After a few seconds, she took the tray, covered it with a cloth, and then, instead of leaving, she pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket. She hesitated before placing it on the table beside his bed. Ethan's instincts sharpened. What was that? A note? Was she quitting, asking for help? He wanted to open his eyes, but he stayed still. He heard her softly sniff, as if holding back tears. "I wish I could thank you," she whispered. "You don't know what your job did for me. I know I don't talk much, and maybe you think I'm strange, but this job saved me. It helped me keep my little brother in school. It gave me hope again." Ibra said. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to move, to speak, but he couldn't. Every word she said was breaking something inside him, something he didn't know he'd been holding onto for years. Lila wiped her eyes with the back of her H, and smiled faintly, though no one could see it. "You probably won't ever know how much it meant," she whispered again. "But, thank you, sir." Then she quietly turned to leave, but before she reached the door, she noticed a photo frame that had fallen near the dresser. She walked over, picked it up, and smiled sadly. It was a picture of Ethan and a woman, his mother. Lila gently cleaned the glass, whispering, "She must have been proud of you." She placed it back, perfectly aligned, and then did something Ethan never expected. She knelt beside the bed, closed her eyes, and whispered softly as if in prayer, "God, please give him rest. He works so hard, but he seems so tired. I don't know why, but I feel he needs someone to remind him that he's not alone." Ethan's eyes burned. He had to fight the urge to sit up. No one had prayed for him since his mother's funeral, not a single person. "Ibri." When Lila left, he finally opened his eyes. He sat there in the darkness, breathing unevenly. The paper she left was still on the table. With shaking hands, he picked it up and unfolded it. Inside was a short note written in small, careful handwriting. "Brooks, sir, if you ever think no one cares, just remember some of us do, even if we can't say it out loud. Thank you for helping me survive." That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He couldn't. The words replayed in his head over and over, mixing with the sound of rain outside. He realized something painful. He had spent his entire life chasing success, but he had never once thought about the small lives his success touched. Somewhere in his mansion full of marble floors and glass walls, a maid had found gratitude in the same life he found emptiness. The next morning, he called his office manager and told them to give Lila a day off with pay. Everyone in the mansion was shocked. Mr. Crawford never gave days off without reason. But when she returned the following day, something had changed. Ethan greeted her with a soft smile. It's St. Startled her so much she nearly dropped her tray. He didn't mention the note, the prayer, or the night. Instead, he simply said, "Thank you for everything you do, Lila." From that day on, Ethan began to notice the world differently. He started eating the meals she left instead of letting them grow cold. He started talking to his employees with patience instead of pressure. He learned their names, their families, their struggles. Slowly, his reputation in the company changed, from a cold, distant perfectionist to a leader who truly cared. But what touched everyone most was how humble he became. Lila continued working for him, but her quietness now felt peaceful instead of distant. She carried herself with quiet pride, knowing her presence mattered. One evening, weeks later, she found a small envelope on her cleaning cart. Inside was a handwritten letter from Ethan. It said, "Abru, you once prayed that I'd find rest. Because of you, I finally did. Thank you for reminding me that humanity still exists in the smallest acts of kindness." Ibrahim. Lila smiled through tears. No one had ever thanked her like that before. She folded the letter carefully and kept it close to her heart. Years passed. Under Ethan's leadership, the company grew stronger not just in wealth, but in spirit. Employees began volunteering for causes, supporting each other through crises, and helping local charities. Ethan quietly funded scholarships for employees' children, including one for Lila's younger brother, who later graduated with honors. But the story didn't end there. One winter morning, Ethan fell sick. Stress and exhaustion had caught up to him after years of overworking. He refused to go to the hospital at first, insisting he'd be fine. But when Lila found him in the study, pale and trembling, she didn't hesitate. She stayed by his side, making soup, checking his temperature, and staying awake all night until the doctor came. When Ethan woke the next morning, he saw her asleep in a chair beside him. The sunlight touched her face, and for a moment, he just watched her. She looked peaceful, like an angel watching over him. A wave of emotion hit him. He realized how deeply she had changed his life, not through grand gestures but through simple, honest care. As he recovered, Ethan decided to do something he had never done before. He gathered his entire household staff and announced new benefits: healthcare, education assistance, paid leave, and bonuses. But when it came to Lila, he had something more personal. Ebru, he walked up to her, his voice soft but firm. "Lila," he said, "you once told me this job saved you. But you should know, you saved me too." Her eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I didn't do anything." He smiled. "You did everything." That day, the mansion that once echoed with silence was filled with applause and emotion. For the first time, Ethan felt alive. Not because of wealth, but because of connection. He had finally learned that leadership wasn't about being served. It was about serving with compassion. Years later, after Ethan retired, the company continued to thrive on the same principles he built from that one night of awakening. And Lila? She became the head of staff, mentoring others, teaching them the same lesson she once unknowingly taught her boss, that kindness, even in silence, can change a heart of stone into one that beats with empathy. So the next time you see someone quiet, unnoticed, or shy, remember this story. Sometimes, those who speak the least carry the biggest hearts. Sometimes, the smallest acts of care awaken the deepest change in another soul. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories that remind us how beautiful humanity can be. Before we end, we'd love to know, what would you have done if you were in Lila's place that night? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ibrakri, because one small act of kindness can change everything.